Good morning, Karina. How are you? And everybody, you're going to need this red book that I might have sent to you, or if you have the Deity Yoga book, the big one from Dharma Surya, either one. We're going to need the, and we're going to need our 101 book. So let's get started by doing our opening prayers today. So if you don't mind, today I'm going to lead the opening prayers. So everybody go to your 101 book and recite along with us, twice in English, once in Tibet. All mothers, sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. All mothers, sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me, obstructors who harm me, and those who create obstacles on my path to liberation and omniscience. May they experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly I will establish them in the state of unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. Dagla dang wa je pe dra no pa je pe geg. Tar pa dang tam she ken pe bar du jo pa je pa tam she ki so je pe. Manam ka dam nyam pe sem chen tam she de wa dang den. Dog now dang drel nor du la na me pa yang dag pa zog pe zhang zhu brin po she to pa ja. Thus, until I achieve enlightenment, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Until death, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. From now until this time tomorrow, I perform virtuous deeds with body, speech, and mind. Te she du sang ma ge gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Ma she bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. Du de ring ne song te ni ma sang ta sam gi bar du lu na gi sam ge wa la ko. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. We take refuge in the kind root and lineage lamas. We take refuge in the deities of the mandalas of the yidams. We take refuge in all the exalted Buddhas. We take refuge in the perfect Dharma. We take refuge in the excellent order of the Sanghas. We take refuge in all the noble Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma guardians, possessors of the eye of wisdom. Transcend sawa dangur parje pe pal den lama dam pa nam la kyab su chio. Yedam kil gorgi la sok nam la kyab su chio. Sange chom den de nam la kyab su chio. Dam pe cho nam la kyab su chio. Pa pe ge du nam la kyab su chio. Pavo Kanjo Cho Kyung Song Mei Song Yeshe Gi Cheng Dang Dempa Nam La Kyab Su Chi O. Taking the bodhisattva vow. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Until I attain the heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in all the Buddhas. I take refuge in the Dharma, and likewise in the assembly of the bodhisattvas. As the previous Buddhas embraced the enlightened mind and progressed on the bodhisattva's path, I too, for the benefit of all sentient beings, give birth to bodhicitta and apply myself to accomplish the stages of the path. Shang Shu Ning Po Chi Ki Bar Sangye Nam La Kyab Su Chi Chodang Shang Shu Sampa Yi So Klang De Shin Kyab Su Chi Jitar Nongi De Shegi Shang Shu Tuk Ni Ki Padang Shang Shu Sampe La Pala De Dag Rim Shin Ne Patar De Shin Dro La Pandandu Shang Shu Sam Ni Ki Gi Shing De Shin Du Ni La Pala Rimpa Shin Du La Pa Ji O. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sangye Chodang Soki Chonam La Shang Shu Bardu Dagni Kapsu Chi Dagi Jin Soki Pe Sonam Gi Drola Penshir Sangye Ju Pa Sho. Four immeasurables. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadam yam pesam centam shwe de wadang de we gurdang dempa jorchi. Dugnal dang dunal gi gudang jwa war jorchi. Dugnal me pe de wadang mi jwa war jorchi. Ne ring jak dang ni dang dwell way, dang namla ne pa chi. Next, we turn to page 10, 11 in the 101 book, the Seven Limb Prayer. We recite this in English one time. I bow down respectfully with my body, speech, and faithful mind to all Tathagatas in the 10 directions, those who have already reached the Tathagata state, those who are reaching it at present, and those Tathagatas still to come. Through the power of Samantabhadra's prayers, may all the Buddhas manifest vividly in my mind. I prostrate to them, multiplying my body as many times as there are atoms of the earth. In each atom, I visualize as many Buddhas as there are atoms, surrounded by countless bodhisattvas. Thus, all space is filled with Buddhas and bodhisattvas. I praise all Buddhas through magnificent chanting, expressing the great ocean of their excellent qualities. To all Buddhas, I make offerings of various pure flowers, flower garlands, of music, anointing oils, magnificent light, and fragrant incense. I make offerings to them of fine garments, perfume, and potpourri, piled high as Mount Meru, and arranged in the most beautiful way. I visualize the highest and most extensive offerings, and offer them with great faith to all Buddhas. I prostrate to the Buddhas and make offerings to them, following the deeds of the great bodhisattva Samantabhadra. I confess to all Buddhas whatever negative actions I have committed due to the power of anger, desire, and ignorance. I rejoice in the merit of all the Buddhas in the 10 directions, of the great bodhisattvas and pratyeka Buddhas, those who have attained arhatship, those who have entered the path to arhatship, and all other beings. I request to all great protectors and Buddhas to turn the highest wheel of Dharma as a light dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 10 directions and leading them gradually to the enlightened state. I supplicate those Buddhas intending to pass into parinirvana to live long for as many eons as there are atoms of the earth in order to benefit all beings. Whatever merit I have gathered through prostrations, offering, confession, rejoicing, beseeching, and praying, for the sake of the enlightenment of all sentient beings, all this I dedicate. Now, page 12, the Sagari Mati requested sutra in in English. Likewise be extinguished. Extinguish all enemies to my purpose. Whatever evil forces are in me, be defeated. Do this so that when I am victorious, all pure radiance melts into me, completely purified. Take all this knowledge, food, and drink peacefully, enjoy it, and be satisfied so that all obstacles may be destroyed. Be liberated from all obstacles, all general obstacles. Maras are defeated by this gesture of the Buddha. By reciting this mantra, may all the Maras be purified. As a result, may all the Maras be defeated. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any comments or questions?
I do, Lance, regarding something that I've read about that is common in Buddhist thought, which is the concept of the far shore. And to me, what that means is that, I have the knowledge of a Tibetan monk. I'm completely at peace, completely faithful, and don't have to worry about anything. Independently wealthy, everything's great for me. But I think that's a very misunderstanding of the concept. I've heard people say, well, the Buddha is the raft, the Dharma is the raft. And when you get to the far shore, you don't need the raft anymore. But when you get to the far shore, you'll actually be dead, or you're already on the far shore. You just don't realize it. So what is an accurate understanding of that concept?
Well, I think the second part, what you said, is basically correct. That the analogy is that we're on this shore now, and we want to get to that far shore, and there is this river or body of water between us, and that body of water is the Dharma teachings and that are happening during our time in samsara. So we're engaging in the water, we're engaging in that body of water that is samsara, but within that are the Dharma teachings. So we're engaged. So we're using the Dharma teachings are literally propelling us across that body of water to get to the other side. So the raft that we're on or the boat that we're in, whatever you want to use as the vehicle that's taking us across the body of water, once we get to the other side, now we don't necessarily need that raft anymore. We don't need that boat anymore. What it also means is that we have become the embodiment of those teachings. So if during the time that we're on that other shore and we have lapses of memory, we have confusion or something like that, we can revert back to our true nature because we're stable in our true nature. So that has not left us. That is always with us the other time. So this is why, again, we don't need that boat anymore. Does that make sense to you?
It does. That's very helpful. So would the Dalai Lama, or would we say that he has already reached the far shore in this lifetime, or we don't know that?
Not necessarily. We don't know that.
We don't
To
know.
be absolutely sure, we can certainly think so,
Mhm.
but we can't know someone else's heart,
Okay.
no more than someone else can know our heart.
Thank you.
So, but we do treat everyone as if they are bodhisattva, as if they are Buddha. So we give everyone, as we would expect for ourselves, the benefit of the doubt.
Very much so.
Thank you. Good question. Any other thoughts? So what we're going to begin today is the practices that are in our Deity Yoga book. So if some of you have the Dharma Surya book, which has all these different practices within it, and some of them we're not going to do in our classes here, and I've sent many of you this red book that has the practices that we are going to engage in. So today we're going to do the first one, Buddha Shakyamuni. So this is to familiarize ourselves with the teaching of the Buddhas, because this is how we learn from their examples how to become perfectly realized beings, how to become free, how to live free, how to, excuse me, help other beings with that freedom and so on. So we can talk all day long as ordinary beings, and we're always going to continuously miss the point somehow or another. But it's through these deity yoga practices which are teaching us how to recognize ourselves as the deity, how to recognize that the deities are within ourselves. Of course, the example I've used so many times is this diamond. This is our true nature. This is in our heart center. And we've had this true nature since the moment we were conceived. And we keep this within ourselves until the moment that our inner breath is released during the transference of consciousness when our body dies and so on. Within this inner nature, within this true nature, this diamond has all these different facets. And these facets are all these different Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The diamond itself is made of bodhicitta, loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. And the way in which that loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity, the way in which that bodhicitta is expressed, is actualized, is through these facets, through these different Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So they are made of the same material, of the same bodhicitta, but their activities are different. some are compassion, some are healing, some are wisdom, some are fearlessness. So that's what we're going to begin to recognize, how that operates through these deity yoga practices. So the deities are these holy enlightened beings that are within us. We have to kind of expand our definition of deity. And I've been thinking about, well, what's a better way to express this deity? That we don't need to use that word, because I think for most of us, the word deity implies this divine divinity, God being, or something like that, that is external to ourselves. But in our case, deity refers to that which is within ourselves, that which is part of who we are, and so on. And we need to come to recognize that holy enlightened being is a holy enlightened being, is a fully realized human being. We do this as a progression. We do this one day at a time, one bit at a time, a spiral going round and round, and so on. And as we are purifying ourselves, we're getting closer and closer to that total realization and embodiment of this Buddha nature, of this true nature that we have within ourselves. So these deities are the examples of how to do that, of what that is, as we have those glimpses one moment at a time. And what we're trying to do is to bring those glimpses together so that they're broader, they're deeper, they're more profound, they stay with us for a longer period of time, and so on. Anybody have any other questions? Okay. So this weekend, going on down in Florida right now, is a Munlam. The Munlam is an aspirational prayer festival that has been going on, and quite a few of the monastics have gathered together down in Florida at the Drungnyor Jangjo Bling Center near Tampa, and they are going through this whole group of prayers that they're going through, and so on. And Garchin Rinpoche attended by way of Zoom on yesterday. So it's been recorded. You can see it on YouTube. But I'm also going to screen share his little talk that he gave yesterday. It takes about 10 or 15 minutes. So I'm going to screen share that with you. The resolution, the quality of the video is not great, but you can certainly see everything that you need to see. He's just talking. And so he's going to be giving his teaching in Tibetan language. But then his translator, Ina Beeler, will give the English translation of what he said. So all this, like I said, takes about 10 or 15 minutes. And it is so compact. It is so concise with meaning of what our practice is, what all this is, putting it all together very, very, very succinctly. And you'll hear words that we've been talking about now for as long as you've been attending these classes. And to hear it come from Garchin Rinpoche may give a little gravity to everything that we've been talking about. It may bring aspiration, it may bring inspiration to your practice and your attendance of these teachings and your development of a study, of looking at these things at other times than just the times that we come together here on Zoom. But then you're finding time during your day and your evening, whatever, where you can study and think about these things, contemplate these things, and maybe do some memorization practices. So, anybody have any concerns or questions? Okay, well then hopefully this is going to work and you all are going to see this and hear this. So here is Garchin Rinpoche. So this starts off with a short prayer. Can everybody hear this?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. I'm going to turn off my microphone.
I think his audio turned off too now, or maybe it just paused.
Sorry, wait a minute. Sorry, maybe I need to set something here. Just a moment. Sorry.
It was working well. It just, I think when you muted your mic, it like
Well,
muted
that
the
shouldn't have
audio.
been happening. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm sorry. Just give me a second. All right. I forgot one element of the Zoom. Let me go back here.
When you share on Zoom, there's two buttons. One says share audio. That it's important to make sure those are both checked as well.
That's what I got to do. I forgot to do that.
Problem.
I'm going to start that over. Can you hear this now?
건강되는 결혼을 지인 바람을 사세로 속아줘서 사지 좀 되니까더니 롱 낭요를 왜 제대로 하정 자체 뭐 용대지를 들리면서 도망반에 봤더니 자반이 빠져서 좀 뭐서 내가 그들이 잡으러 맞아 발에 어떤 한 용대를 들고 때 양당의 뒤서 용대는 남들도 돌아 돌아이지 들때는 대지서 많이 라마트니 추지들이 들이랑 견디는 용대 제주라 사정선을 보고 그거 채parti 요래 들이 개와 탐지 개와 가르도나 자절 돈좀 이렇게 제발 요래 다다마다 자절로 땡땡이 오면 멈대절 송 들이 때문에 다시 가장 제발 뭐래
To the perfect assembly here today. And so we are engaging in a very special ceremony to honor our own lineage. And so that is at the time and on these special days, that is the time when we remember the root guru and the various lineage masters. And so the reason why we regard such a time as very precious is because, so generally speaking, we all follow the Buddha Dharma. It is all the same. But then within that, we have our individual different lineages. And so when we understand the background of our own Dharma lineage, then a great inspiration arises in our mind. So the reason why such an occasion is really significant, is really important, is because during that time we remember the qualities of these masters, their life stories, their life examples, their great qualities. And so in order to remember these, we hold a prayer festival like this. Guru Rinpoche had said that when you hear the history, the story, a clear faith or an inspiration arises. When you see the qualities, faith arises. And through the trusting faith, the blessings will enter your mind. So this is a time where we remember the great life stories of those past lineage masters. And when we hear them, our body, speech, and mind open up, and we supplicate them single-pointedly. So we engage in aspiration prayer. That is the meaning of MUNE. And the aspiration prayer will be accomplished by virtue of three powers. First, there is the power of one's own intention. That is the three kinds of faith: the clear faith, the longing faith, and the trusting faith. The second power is the power of all the Buddhas of the three times in the 10 directions, which are in essence our own root guru. And then the third power is the power of the Dharma Dhatu, and that is our Buddha nature. Buddha nature pervades all of samsara and nirvana. So in brief, during such a special time, we are accumulating merit. And normally, sorry, our minds are distracted, and now we are focusing single-pointedly on the accumulation of merit or making an aspiration prayer. And so the reason why we bring out a certain lineage, the qualities of a lineage, is so that we understand the qualities of the great masters of the lineage. So we understand their life story. For example, in the Drikung Kagyu lineage, we think of Lord Chigden Sumgön. The Rinpoche passed me right now. It says in a sutra called the Noble Great Cloud Sutra. It says in there, in the northern direction, in a place, in a pure land called Dream. In that pure land, there will be a great Gelong called Rinpoche, and he will look after an assembly of millions of disciples. So the appearance of Lord Chigden Sumgyen was already foretold in the sutras, and he was also referred to as the second Buddha. So during this time, we remember this root guru, we remember his great qualities. And so then when we understand his qualities and life story, then the blessings of that guru will enter our mind. When we remember the guru, we remember the Dharma. And when we remember the Dharma, we also remember the qualities of the Sangha. And the quality of the Sangha is the precious bodhicitta. That is what we call virtue. So during such a time when we practice virtue, the results will become multiplied by hundreds and thousands of times. It is said that when we recite something like a mantra, pure instead of impure, so in a correctly instead of incorrectly, that multiplies the effect by 10,000 times. But if we recite the same with samadhi, it multiplies the effects 100,000 times.
그 시즌 데라 때리 데 값서더니 나는 sem속기고 그래. sem속기는 강리 그 사기가 땜바는 뭐 쟤네들이 콜로 섬는 거네. 그 보아서 뒤진 콜로 로바트 삼진 콜로 사례진 콜로 섬는 뒤네. 그 사기가 땜바는 뭐 집이 집라 총 강이마 그래서 이제 빼로 탁 되는 거 소속에 랑은 양들님보다 얘는 빼로 탁 데려지는 데다 다서 좀까지 이나다 그럼 전부 와 처리 다게 버들이 마냥 보면 양바 소출으로 데르딜이 생기 답지를 빈데 자체번 요구요래 데르들 마음과는 데이터들이 양내 양들이 마냥 보면 양바 소출 용어들 로또들이 상황은 데리 성공자자 기체모요래 데리들랑 좀 파마 셈지 탐체도 동의가 되는 정도요래 데리 도지 리더서 봐도 라지 돈이 가까이 오면 데리들이 다른 가운데 데리다가 저기 쳐다보는 거죠. 오종에 들이다는 것을 좀 가지고 뭐람지 모두 양 그게 하자가 와서 뭐래 그 마음과 들을 때에들이 마냥 보면 양 봐서 용지 탐내 생성자고 그래 들 자시들의 저기
콜로솜 약해서라 콜로솜
보마상 되죠. 콜로 로바트상 콜로 사발레죠. 콜로데 별로 주도들 샤데게 가려 사발레죠. 콜로는 너는 강내들 사제적 때문에 대반 진정 배심성 디 사발 속야야 들이 되게 제 보여래.
And so during a special time like such as this, it is important that we also develop courage in our minds. And so the Buddha's teachings are propagated through three wheels. First is the wheel of abandonment, which is the wheel of meditative concentration. Then second is the wheel of learning and reflection. And then third is the wheel of activity, engaging in activity. And this one is actually very significant, and that, for example, relates to the activity relates to the Dharma center activities, for instance, the various activities to to increase, to preserve, to uphold the Buddha's teachings. So it's very important to really make an effort in this and to be courageous when it comes to these Dharma activities. And so when we increase Dharma activities, we do so by engaging in practice ourselves and also by passing it on to others. So now also this Jigung Kagyu Mönlam prayer festival is also such a Dharma activity to propagate and preserve the teachings. And ever since it has been started up until now, it has not degenerated, it has increased, it has never been interrupted, and it has brought great and vast benefit to sentient beings. So it's very important to continue this going forward, to never allow this tradition to decline, but it is important to have the mental courage, the determination to have this tradition continue on, because it is for the benefit of all mother or parent sentient beings. And the purpose of others and oneself is actually not separate. Also today, we are very fortunate to have His Eminence Tritsa Rinpoche presiding over the prayer Mönlam, the Jigung Kagyu Mönlam. We are extremely fortunate to have him here. And so again, in the future, have the courage to always carry on this tradition.
Be barjola me jabe, then the Saturday yola chop, then be jindanga bango baji, then by your never draw you.
Rinpoche, Togjeche, Gadiche.
Okay, so that is the conclusion of what we're going to do for today. Just let me get back to this. 1 second, sorry. Okay, so now we're back on our regular Zoom. Does anybody have any questions or comments about that? About Garchin Rinpoche making that talk?
Thank you for sharing it.
Yeah, thank you. That was quite beautiful. And I guess some things that came to mind for me were two things. One is like this is for me like with Garchin Rinpoche in general, of like I think you put like you see the qualities and then like the faith arises, and that's part of what's so precious to me about Garchin Rinpoche is he's someone that I like naturally feel a sense of devotion, like that feeling of devotion, which doesn't come very easily to me. I think maybe I'm just like too cynical or intellectualized or something. And then like seeing his qualities like that gives me faith in the Dharma too, in a way that's part of what I was thinking too. And then also the other thing that stood out to me was towards the end with the idea of like courage, or the importance of courage, and even just like in the path in general, which really stood out to me too. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. What do you think that courage needs to overcome?
For me?
Yes.
For me, I think part of it is being willing to be different. Being willing to be different than other people that are doing different things, that I'm not saying like bad or even like friends and things, of like, just going counter to in some ways to what other people are doing in a way that may not be alienating me necessarily, not to that degree, but is not as easy, kind of going against the grain in a lot of ways. I think that, and then also just like the courage to just like be like continually breaking these like addictions, more and more fine level addictions, which can be hard to do, I guess.
Very good. Thank you. Gary, I see you have your microphone turned on. What would you like to say?
Well, without getting into specifics, all the world is really a storm now, an emotional storm. And all of this is really a refuge from that. If you don't have a refuge, if you don't have another focus, if you don't have this spiritual retreat, which Buddhism has appealed to me over time as, then you can't avoid the storm. You're either in it or out of it. And since I think the storm is getting worse, this practice and all of these things are very important. They're a place for me to go. And I go there more and more often. And that's so I think that hearing Garchin's teachings and all the things that I have here to read that you would know about are a way of saving myself from becoming part of the other.
Very good. Thank you. Brendan?
Well said, Gary. I mean, taking refuge in the Buddha and the Dharma and the Sangha means a lot to me. So I have similar sentiments. One thing that really resonated with me was similar to what Matthew said. I wrote down the quote because it was so beautiful. Through the trusting space, the blessings will enter your mind. And my career and my time as a father has been characterized by not trusting myself to be the best I can be, and just always being afraid, like at work, that something really bad's going to happen. That's going to, put everything in a tailspin. And for 23 years, that hasn't happened. And so I think perhaps that lack of trust in myself is one of my own worst enemies. And so that really resonated with me.
So does the trust mean then to trust that which is within you that you have suppressed or you haven't recognized yet?
That's a very difficult question to answer. And I think that, yes, I mean, ultimately, it's all on our minds. And something I read recently, I forget which teacher said it, but about how the mind is it's a great tool, but it's a terrible taskmaster. And that monkey mind can take you in terrible places. And I think that's probably what I need to do is realize my enlightened mind more. I think that's really what I'm getting at.
Yes, indeed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Would anybody else like to comment? Karina? Gavin? Yeah, I can barely hear you.
Can you hear me better?
Yes,
now?
much better now, yes.
Okay. I had a question. He had brought up the reason why they prayed to the lineage, and he said that Rinpoche, or Lord Jigten Sumgun was the second incarnation of Buddha. Are we to assume that is the author of the Bardo Todal?
Now, in this lineage, Jigten Sumgun is the founder of this lineage. So he's considered to be the second Buddha in our lineage. But in other lineages, they would have their founders and their beings who they might say were the second Buddha. In the Nyingma tradition, they say Padmasambhava is the second Buddha and so on. So it's a relative thing, and the more that you expose yourself to the different writings and teachings and biographies and so on, you see this kind of thread. This is part of what recognizing a lineage is and so on. It's a way of telling the story, of preserving the story. Having said that, Lord Jigten Sumgun, the Drikung Kagyu lineage, the Drikung Kagyu lineage, at one time, about 700-800 years ago, was the largest of the lineages and swept all the way from Western Tibet, all the way through Southern Tibet, all the way to Eastern Tibet and up north, everything but the middle land. And so Drikung Kagyu at one time was huge. much bigger than it is now. Now the Galupa tradition, the Lupa lineage is huge like that. So so perhaps there's reference to that, at that time that Jigden Sumgön was considered to be so significant that he was considered by so many Tibetans to be the second Buddha.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you very much. That was very informative. Will we learn more about Jigden Sumgön's life at some point?
Yes, that's one of the features that we want to include in this new round of Buddha practice is going to be historical, talks about the history of our lineage and the history of Buddhism in general and in Tibetan Buddhism specifically and so on. So yes, that's part of what we want to include. So in the coming year or so, we hope to have some things about that, yes. In the meantime, there is a book that maybe you'd be interested in. One moment here. It's called The Great Kagyu Masters, and it's written by, translated by Khenpo Kuncho Gyaltsen, who is very significant in our lives in many ways. You may not have met him. He's still living, and he's the translator of the Jewel Ornamental Liberation that we use, for instance. But here is a book that talks about the great Kagyu masters: Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Lurgampopa, Pagma Drupa, and Lord Dri Kongpa. Lord Dri Kongpa is Jigden Sumgön, the founder of this lineage. So this is giving the history of the Kagyu lineage. The Drikung is one part of that Kagyu lineage.
Thank you very much for all that knowledge right there. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Anybody else have any thoughts, questions?
A very quick question. At
Sure.
one point, the Lama mentioned Pure Land, and I've heard of Pure Land Buddhism, and I thought that was something more in Japan and less of a Tibetan teaching. So can you talk a little bit about what Pure Land Buddhism is and what he was referring to when he mentioned it, please?
Well, Pure Land Buddhism is as you just point out, is in the East, in China and Japan and so on. But the Pure Land is another word for the Buddha field. And what we're trying to recognize is our Buddha field. So we're doing that through recognizing, by being introduced to the Buddha fields, the Pure Lands of those individual Buddhas or bodhisattvas that we're going to embark in these practices here. So it's through recognizing how they have done that is how we see, oh, that's possible for me too. Does that make some sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. So I hope this was interesting and inspiring. It was for me, and it was something that was so inspiring that I couldn't keep it inside. I had to share it with you guys. And that's the way this kind of works, that we get inspired to the point that we can't contain it. We just want to let it radiate out. We want to let it come out. It's made such a fundamental difference to us. We just want to be able to share it. So what we're doing is learning how to do that, how to recognize it within ourselves, to stabilize it within ourselves, and how to share it with others. Okay. All right, well, then we're going to get started on the deity yoga part. So it's fitting that we begin with the Buddha, Buddha Shakyamuni. So we start with him, of course. Now he is the living Buddha, and I might say that the Garchin Rinpoche, who we just saw, in Tibet and many places around the world, myself included, consider Garchin Rinpoche to be a living Buddha. And so there's quite a story about the Garchin, who the Garchin is. He is the 8th incarnation of the Garchin. And the Garchin was the heart son. The first Garchin was the heart son of Jigden Sumgun over 800 years ago. And so there have been these incarnations that come every 100 years or so, and he is the 8th incarnation of that. And the Garchin brings with him great devotion, great teachings, and our Garchin now comes at a very special time, because when the Chinese came into Tibet, he became the holder, Garchin Rinpoche became the holder of all the Drikung Kagyu teachings, all the Kagyu teachings. He became the expert. He memorized all of them. So that's an incredible thing to contemplate. But that's how it works. These monks and so on, they memorize all these things. They become the embodiment of all these things. And they can just sit there for hours, days on end, and be continuously reciting one practice, one teaching after another, over and over and over again. And that's a testament to their devotion and their compassion for other beings, that they do this so that there is a absolute or a stable repository, if you will, for all these teachings. In other words, they can burn all the books, but as long as he's alive, the teachings can be alive, and then it becomes his job. Garchin, in particular, any of the other masters, becomes their job to be able to get these things written down so that they can disseminate as much as possible, and to continue the teachings to others who can memorize them themselves and so on. So it's part of this, continuum of the Dharma practice, the Dharma teachings. Okay, so we go to page 11, which is the first page in this red book. And if you have the Deity Yoga book, this book here, it's page 11. So please go to it. And I'm not going to give any kind of it's certainly not an empowerment, because I'm not authorized to give empowerment. If we lived alone on an island, maybe that'd be different, but you can receive empowerments from the teachers and so on, and to avail yourself whenever you can of the empowerments, either by Zoom or in person. So we're on page 11. This is an introduction. Namo Guru Shakyamuni. So Namo means I pay homage. Guru is the great teacher. Shakyamuni, Shakya means his family clan is the Shakya clan, and Muni is sage of the Shakyas, and the suffix ye means primordial, the primordial sage of the Shakyas. So that's his title, that's his name. So then it says below in the English, it says in the Samadhi Raja Sutra, which is the King of Samadhi Sutra that I've been referencing so much lately. In the Samadhi Raja Sutra, it is said, those while walking, sitting, standing, or sleeping, recollect the moon-like Buddha, will always be in Buddha's presence and will attain the vast nirvana. And his pure body is the color of gold. Beautiful is the protector of the world. Whoever visualizes him like this practices the meditation of the bodhisattvas. In keeping with this, we should practice remembering our incomparable teacher, the Lord of Sages, in the following way. So we notice the image of the Buddha on this page. You have a picture that we talked about last week. You have pictures. So you have a meditation picture of Shakyamuni Buddha, and he has a golden colored body, And he has the usnisa, he has the top knot, which represents the Dharma teachings. And he's wearing the Dharma robes. He's wearing the Lama robes. And he's sitting on a lotus pedestal on a moon disk, which is also the sun disk. The moon disk is the compassion disk, and the sun disk is the wisdom disk. So it's showing his complete realization. So we come to the short refuge prayer on page 12. So we recite this out loud together, twice in English, once in Tibet, and we continue that with the 4 immeasurable prayer just below that. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and so on, may I attain the Buddhahood for all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and so on, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. Sangye chodang soki chonam la, Shangju bardu dagni kapsuchi. Dagi jinsoki pe sonamgi, drola penshir sange jupasho. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness devoid of suffering. And may they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness devoid of suffering. And may they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. Samchen tamshe dewa dang dewe grudang dempa jorchi. Dognal dang donal gi gudang drawar jorchi. Dognal me pe dewa dang mi drawar jorchi. May ring chak dang ni dang draw way tang nam la ne pa jorchi. It says in small print at the bottom, it says, bringing to mind how all phenomena appear and yet lack inherent existence, recite the following. So bringing to mind, we're being mindful that all phenomena appear out of emptiness. We talked about the emptiness. We need to talk a lot more about it, but that this phenomenal nature is empty in its own nature, in its own sense. All this is just appearances. This is the display of the Dharmakaya, the display of the Dharma Dhatu. This is the display of the mind of the Buddha. And we are witnessing it. We see it as ordinary beings and misinterpret it as being real, because our mind is not the mind of the Buddha yet. So we're seeing it in its impure, with its impure features. And our what we're trying to do is to be able to rest that and to be able to recognize it as Buddha. So it says, phenomena appear and yet lack inherent existence. Recite the following. So now the visualization. We'll just do the English. Unborn emptiness and the unceasing appearances of dependent arising are the way of illusory unity. Before me in the sky, amidst vast clouds of offerings, on a jeweled line throne in lotus, sun and moon disk seats, the incomparable teacher, Lord of the Shakyas. So here in this first line of this stanza, it says, Unborn emptiness and the unceasing appearances of dependent arising are the way of illusory unity. So what this means is we're seeing the phenomenal nature. We're seeing the emptiness of the phenomenal nature together with the dependent arising, together with the unceasing appearances, together with the unborn emptiness, the unborn Dharmakaya, the mind of the Buddha, seeing those two things simultaneously. Next stanza is, his body the color of gold, adorned with major and minor marks, clad in the 3 Dharma robes, he sits in Vajra posture, his right hand gracefully poised in the earth-touching mudra, and his left hand in the gesture of meditation, holding an alms bowl full of nectar, like a mountain of gold, magnificent, he shines in splendor, spreading beams of wisdom light across the whole expanse of space. So if we go back to his image on the preceding page, page 11, you notice that his right hand is touching the earth. His palm is down on his right knee, and his fingers are touching the earth. His left hand is 4 inches below his navel in the meditation position, in the meditative equipoise mudra. So that means the meditation, the transcendent nature, his left hand. The right hand is touching the earth, saying, here it is that I am, and here I am everywhere. There is no distinction between any other place. Being here is being everywhere. So when we adopt that mudra, that's what we are saying. I am here, I am everywhere. So then we go to the next page, page 14. Let me see if there was something left over here. Okay, page 14. The 8 close sons, 16 elders and the like. A vast ocean-like retinue of noble beings encircles him all around. Simply think of him, and he grants the glory of the highest bliss. Liberation from samsara and nirvana, the 2 extremes. He is the great being, perfect embodiment of every source of refuge. So the 8 close sons are the 8 great bodhisattvas that we've talked about in weeks past. And so of them is Manjushri and Shenrezig and Vajrapani, Samantabhadra, and so on. So they are the 8 close sons. And then the 16 elders and the like is his immediate retinue, his students that stayed with Buddha Shakyamuni from the beginning and stayed with him throughout the remainder of his lifetime as he taught. They may have gone off and done teachings themselves, but figuratively, they were always with him. So if anybody has questions while I'm talking, don't hesitate to turn on your microphone and come right in. Yes, Brendan.
Why would anyone, including the Buddha, need to be liberated from nirvana if nirvana is what the Buddha obtained and what we are all seeking to obtain?
Nirvana is temporary. Nirvana is the 2 sides of the same hand. One side is samsara and the other side is nirvana. They're conceptual. Nirvana. And it's just a means, a way for us to communicate as ordinary human beings, the impurity of what it is that we're trying to purify. When we are able to attain stable nirvana and remain as a Buddha, a realized Buddha, then and we're transcending those vicissitudes of nirvana and samsara. So it's making that distinction here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so then the small print now in the middle of this page. Visualize the form of the Buddha in this way. Imagine that he is actually there in front of you. The instant that you generate this thought, All as the Buddha's wisdom body is not constrained by limits of time or location. He will certainly be there. One of the sutras says, should anyone think of the Buddha, he is there, right in front of them, constantly granting his blessings and freedom from all harm. The merit gained through visualizing the Buddha is inexhaustible. It is a source of virtue that will never go to waste. And as it says in the Avatamsaka Sutra, by seeing, hearing, or offering to the Buddhas, a boundless store of merit is amassed. Till we are rid of all these destructive emotions and the suffering of samsara, this compounded merit will never go to waste. Also, whatever prayers of aspiration we make before the Buddha will be fulfilled. So this needs to be read and contemplated many, many times over. So although it's in small print, you need to dig it out, and you need to remind yourself of this. The next stanza says, as it says in the teaching on the qualities of Manjushri's pure land, everything is circumstantial and depends entirely on our aspiration. Whatever prayers of aspiration we make, the results will gain accordingly. Generate firm conviction in these statements and recite the following. So again, these are reminders. These are signposts. These are telling us what to look out for. Okay, so now we go back to the text. It says, with your great compassion, you embraced this turbulent and degenerate world and made 500 mighty aspirations. You are as exalted as the white lotus. Whoever hears your name shall never return to samsara. Most compassionate teacher, to you I pay homage. All my own and others' virtues of body, speech, and mind, together with all our possessions, visualized like Samantabhadra's offering clouds, I offer to you. All the harmful actions and transgressions I have committed throughout beginningless time, each and every one I now confess, with intense and heartfelt regret, in all virtuous actions of the noble ones and ordinary beings accumulated throughout the past, present, and future, I rejoice. So Buddha is within us. So we are making these offerings. We are doing these purifications in order that we may recognize our true nature, the Buddha within ourselves. So we're not making these offerings to somebody out there that is going to all of a sudden rain down all these treasures for us. We're offering it to ourselves, to our true nature as Buddha, so that we may open up, that we may be able to overcome, to transcend our ordinariness, the confusions, the emotions, and all that, and recognize this true nature within ourselves. That's what this is saying. Samantabhadra's offering clouds. Samantabhadra, this is the bodhisattva. Samantabhadra. Samantabhadra is the bodhisattva of transformation, the bodhisattva of devotion. It's through the devotion of constantly doing these prayers, constantly doing these practices, constantly contemplating, bringing this into our lives, that this becomes our ordinary mind. This extraordinary teachings, these extraordinary practices, they become our ordinary mind, so that these become ordinary, and all the craziness that we're coming from, that becomes the extraordinary stuff. So now to the next verse. It says, turn the wheel of the profound and vast Dharma teachings unceasingly and in every direction, I pray. Your wisdom body is like space and remains changeless throughout past, present, and future. Yet in the perception of those to be guided, you go through the display of birth and death. Even so, let your form body continue always to appear. So the form body of the Buddha always coming. And we look at all beings as potential Buddha. So this is inspirational to us. Of course, some are more closer to that than others. So we have someone like Garchin Rinpoche to remind us of the incarnation of this true Buddha nature in a being who is stainless. Okay, the next verse says, through all the virtues I have accumulated in the past, I'm accumulating now, and will accumulate in the future for the sake of benefiting all beings who are as infinite as space. May you, the sovereign of Dharma, be forever pleased, and may all attain the state of the victorious one, the Lord of Dharma. So that Buddha nature is within ourselves. That Lord of Dharma, that sovereign of Dharma, is within ourselves. May we please ourselves. May we please this Buddha within ourselves. This is a very important part, a very important realization. Because what can happen is we start thinking that it's outside of ourselves. You know, may I please the Buddha, and the Buddha outside myself. The Buddha is within ourselves. May I please this true nature within myself. Then the next verse says, living beings like us, adrift in this degenerate age, have no guidance and protection. Because of your kindness, caring for us, this should be unsurpassing. This word here, it says surpassing compassion. It should be unsurpassing compassion. So if you can add that, that was a typo that has been carrying on for quite some time. Unsurpassing compassion. Every manifestation in this world now of the three jewels is your enlightened activity. So every manifestation in this world now of the three jewels is your enlightened activity. This is the body, speech, and mind. Om Ah Hong. So this is, the Buddha is radiating the body, speech, and through the body, speech, and mind, this purity, this guidance, this protection, this kindness, unsurpassing compassion. Every manifestation is being done all the time. So now the next line says, you are then our only refuge, incomparable, supreme. So from our hearts we pray, with total confidence and faith. Do not neglect the great promises you made in times gone by, but hold us until we attain enlightenment with your compassion. So I just want to emphasize here that the Buddha taught that his way, the Dharma, is not exclusive. He is certainly a spokesman, if you will. He is the inventor of this great gift of the Dharma teachings, his method of attaining this, but it is not exclusive. The Christ is valid. The idea of Yahweh, of whatever being you want to use, whatever tradition you want to use, all of that is an expression of what this true nature is. And it has been human beings who have taken that and have skewed it to make it sound like it's theirs exclusively. And there are certainly Buddhists who will do the same thing. But the intent, the motivation here is to say that this is something that is inconceivable to us human beings. And the more that we do to try and express it, the more that we confuse it. So the simpler we become, the more that we abide in that peacefulness, the more truthful, the more pure we remain. So it's in the spirit of that we do the teachings, but we know enough to be able to back up and remember that we are speaking conceptually, and that it's through the practice of meditation that we are able to transcend even those concepts. So now the next, you are then our early refuge, incomparable, supreme. So from our hearts we pray with total confidence and faith. Do not neglect the great promises you made in times gone by, but hold us until we attain enlightenment with your compassion. Then the small words say, with the strongest possible confidence and faith, consider that the Buddha is actually there in front of you. Concentrate one-pointedly on his form and recite the following as many times as you can. So here we're doing a mindfulness practice. We're imagining that the Buddha is in front of us, sitting on our head, within our body, that it's approachable, and that we are bringing that Buddha within ourselves. So here this prayer, this English translation is, Supreme Teacher, Bhagavan, Tathagata, Arhat, complete and perfect Buddha, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni Buddha, to you I pay homage, to you I make offerings, in you I take refuge. So Supreme Teacher, the great Guru, Bhagavan means the most holy one, Tathagata means the thus gone one, thus gone from confusion, thus gone from samsara and nirvana. Arhat, the one who has accomplished, complete and perfect Buddha. Glorious conqueror who has conquered all the defilements, all the confusions, etc. Shakyamuni Buddha, to you I pay homage, to you I make offerings, in you I take refuge. So then it says in the small print below, it says, then as a means of invoking his wisdom mind, recite as many times as you can the following Dharani, which is taught in the abridged Prajnaparamita. So the Prajnaparamita is the path of perfection, the perfection of all good qualities, the perfection of all the good deeds. So we go back. So his mantra is TADYATHA Om Muni Muni MAHAMUNAYE Soha. TADYATHA means this is it. Om is the enlightened body, speech, and mind of the deity, in this case, Buddha. Mune means sage. Muni again means greater sage. MAHAMUNAYE. Maha means great, the greatest. Mune means the sage, and Munaye, ye means primordial, the primordial great Buddha sage. Soha, may it be so. Soha, may it be accomplished. So, and then so that's his mantra. So we go back to page 16 now, and we recite in the Tibetan, where it says Lama Tompa Jom Dende. You see that? It's the Tibetan for the Supreme Teacher Bhagavan Tathagata. It's in the bold font. So we recite this 3 times. Lama Tompa Jom Dende Deshin Segpa Ja Chompa Yadak Par Zogpe Sange Pao Gawa Chakya Tupa La Chaksao Lo Chodo Kapsu Chio Lama Tomba Jomdende Deshin Sekpa Ja Chompa Yadak Parzogpe Sange Pao Gawa Chakya Tupa La Chaksao Lo Chodo Kapsu Chio Lama Tomba Jomdende Deshin Sekpa Ja Chompa Yadak Parzog Bezange Pao, Gawa Chakya Tupa La Chakso Lo Chodo Kapsu Chio. So now if you have your beads, we take our beads. TADYATHA Om Muni Muni MAHAMUNAYE Soha. TADYATHA Om Muni Muni MAHAMUNAYE Soha. TADYATHA Om Muni Muni MAHAMUNAYE Soha. So you can close your eyes. You can visualize the Buddha in front of you. You can use your meditation card that perhaps you have in front of you. You can look at that to one-pointedly develop the mindfulness of Buddha Shakyamuni in your midst, that you become Buddha Shakyamuni. TADYATHA Om Muni Muni MAHAMUNAYE Soha. 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 TADYATHA Om MUNE MUNE MAHAMUNAYE SOHA 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, 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 Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, 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 Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa, Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa. Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Ezoa. We come back to the text, the little print. It says, during all this, bring to mind the Buddha's qualities, and within a mind full of devotion, concentrate one-pointedly on the clear visualization of his form. Then, through the power of uttering the names of the Buddha and reciting his dharani, imagine that. So now, back to the text, it says, from the Buddha's body, there emanates a great radiance, a multicolored rays of wisdom light, dispelling all our own and others' obscurations, and causing all the genuine qualities of the Mahayana path to arise within us, so that we attain the level of perfection from which we will never return again to samsara. So here from the Buddha's body, which is the Nirmanakaya, talk about the three kayas. The Dharmakaya is the mind of the Buddha. The Nirmanakaya is the body of the Buddha, the emanation body of the Buddha, the physical body of the Buddha. There emanates a great radiance of multicolored rays. That's the Sambhogakaya. That's the speech of the Buddha. That's the Dharma, the speech of the Buddha. Multicolored rays of wisdom light. That's the emanation, that's the enjoyment body, the subtle enjoyment body. Dispelling all our own and others' obscurations. That this is clearing away all the negativity, all the confusions, etc. And causing all the genuine qualities of the Mahayana path, the middle way path, to arise within us so that we attain the level of perfection from which we will never return again to samsara. So now we'll do a short meditation, and we'll end for this session. We will take a break and we'll come back and we'll start this practice over again with no stops. But we'll answer any questions that you have beforehand. So now, sit in the meditation position, keep your back straight. Visualize the Buddha in your heart center. And then peacefully, TADYATHA Om Muni Muni MAHAMUNAYE Soha. Take a deep breath and hold it. Exhale and hold the breath. Open your eyes, breathe normal. Maintain your mindfulness. We'll take a short break, come back at the top of the hour, about 20 minutes or so, 15, 20 minutes. We'll stop. We'll start again at the top of the hour. If anybody has any questions or comments, I can answer what I can for you now, or if you want to wait until later, we can do it then.
Yeah, thanks. I completely forgot.
Okay, we go back to page 12, and we'll start at the beginning of this doing the English, and we'll recite the short refuge prayer, the four immeasurables, one time each, just in English, and then we'll continue on in English, and we'll do the recitation mantra again. Okay, so we begin. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly, I take refuge until I attain enlightenment. Through the merit of practicing generosity and so on, may I attain Buddhahood for the benefit of all beings. May all sentient beings enjoy happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the sacred happiness devoid of suffering, and may they dwell in boundless equanimity that is free from attachment and aversion. Ah, unborn emptiness and the unceasing appearances of dependent arising are the way of illusory unity. Before me in the sky, amidst vast clouds of offerings, on a jeweled lion throne in lotus sun and moon disk seats, the incomparable teacher, Lord of the Shakyas. I hope everybody's reciting this along with me, please. His body, the color of gold, adorned with major and minor marks, clad in the three Dharma robes, he sits in Vajra posture, his right hand gracefully poised in the earth-touching mudra, and his left hand in the gesture of meditation. Holding an alms bowl full of nectar, like a mountain of gold, magnificent, he shines in splendor, spreading beams of wisdom light across the whole expanse of space. The 8 close sons, 16 elders, and the like, a vast ocean-like retinue of noble beings encircles him all around. Simply think of him, and he grants the glory of the highest bliss. Liberation from samsara, the two extremes. He is the great being, perfect embodiment of every source of refuge. With your great compassion, you embraced this turbulent and degenerate world, and made 500 mighty aspirations. You are as exalted as the white lotus. Whoever hears your name shall never return to samsara. Most compassionate teacher, to you I pay homage. All my own and others' virtues of body, speech, and mind, together with all our possessions, visualized like Samantabhadra's offering clouds, I offer to you. All the harmful actions and transgressions I have committed throughout beginningless time, each and every one I now confess, with intense and heartfelt regret, and all virtuous actions of the noble ones and ordinary beings accumulated throughout the past, present, and future, I rejoice. Turn the wheel of the profound and vast Dharma teachings, ceaselessly and in every direction I pray. Your wisdom body is like space and remains changeless throughout past, present, and future. Yet in the perception of those to be guided, you go through the display of birth and death. Even so, let your form body continue always to appear. Through all the virtues I have accumulated in the past, I'm accumulating now, and will accumulate in the future, for the sake of benefiting all beings who are as infinite as space. May you, the sovereign of Dharma, be forever pleased, and may all attain the state of victorious one, the Lord of Dharma. Living beings like us, adrift in this degenerate age, have no guidance and protection. Because of your kindness, caring for us with unsurpassing compassion, every manifestation in this world now of the three jewels is your enlightened activity. You are then our only refuge, incomparable, supreme. So from our hearts we pray, with total confidence and faith. Do not neglect the promises you made in times gone by, but hold us until we attain enlightenment with your compassion. Supreme Teacher, Bhagavan Tathagata, Arhat, complete and perfect Buddha, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni Buddha, to you I pay homage, to you I make offerings, in you I take refuge. Supreme Teacher, Bhagavan Tathagata, Arhat, complete and perfect Buddha, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni Buddha, to you I pay homage, to you I make offerings, in you I take refuge. Supreme Teacher, Bhagavan Tathagata, Arhat, complete and perfect Buddha, glorious conqueror Shakyamuni Buddha, to you I pay homage, to you I make offerings, in you I take refuge. Lama Tompa Jomdende, Deshin Sangpa Jachompa, Yadak Parzog Pe Zange Pao, Gyawa Chakya Tupala, Chaksalo Chodo Kapsu Chio. Deata Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. 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 Dayata 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 Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. 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 Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. 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 Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. 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 Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. 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 Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. 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 Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. 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 Muni Muni. Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. 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 Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. 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 Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. 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 Om Muni Muni Mahamunaye Soha. 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Muni 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 Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Muni Muni Mani 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 Ezoa Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Muni Muni Ma Muni 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 Ezoa Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Muni Muni Ma Muni Muni Ma Muni 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 Ma Muni Ezoa 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 Muni Muni Ma Ma Muni 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 Ezoa Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezoa Muni Muni Ma Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo Muni Muni Ma Muni 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 Ma Muni Ezo Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Muni Muni Ma Muni Muni Ma Muni Muni Ma Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Muni Muni No many many ma many ezo 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 Oh many many ma many ezo 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 Oh, many, many, ma, many, ezo, 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 many, many, ma, many, ezo. Oh, many, many, ma, many, ezo, 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 many, many, ma. Ma many ezo, many many 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 ma many ezo. Oh many many ma many ezo, many many ma many ezo, de do many many ma many ezo, many many ma many ezo, many many ma many ezo, many many Ma many 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 ezo, many many ma 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 many ezo. Oh many many ma many ezo, de do many many ma many ezo, many many ma many ezo, many many ma many ezo, many many ma many ezo. Oh many many ma many ezo, 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 many many ma many ezo. Oh many many ma many ezo, 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 many many ma many ezo. Oh many many ma many ezo, 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 many many ma many ezo. Oh many many ma many ezo, 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 many many Ma many 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 ezo, many many ma 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 many ezo. Oh many many ma many ezo, oh many many ma many ezo, 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 many many ma many ezo. Oh many many ma many ezo, 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 many many ma many ezo. Oh many many ma many ezo, 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 many many ma many ezo. Oh many many ma many ezo, 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 many many ma many. Oh many many ma many ezo, many many ma many ezo, many many ma many ezo, many many ma many many ezo, many many ma many ezo, many many ma many ezo, many many ma many. Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Muni Muni Ma Muni 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 Ezo Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo Ade Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Om Muni Muni Ma Muni Ezo 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 Om Muni Muni MAHAMUNAYE Soha. Returning to the text on page 17. From the Buddha's body there emanates a great radiance of multicolored rays of wisdom light, dispelling all our own and others' obscurations, and causing all the genuine qualities of the Mahayana path to arise within us, so that we attain the level of perfection from which we will never return again to samsara. So now we'll have a 5-minute meditation. Take a deep breath and hold it. Exhale. Hold that vacant breath. Keep your back straight. Breathe in again through both nostrils, fresh, clean, pure air, and hold the breath. Exhale, stale, dark air, defiled air. Hold the breath. Breathe in again, fresh, clean, pure air. And exhale, stale, dark, contaminated air, and hold the breath. Relax. Breathe normal. Visualize Buddha Shakyamuni, the crown of your head, dissolving into golden light. Coming into your heart center, radiating golden light to all beings, overcoming suffering and confusion, bringing happiness, peace, and joy. Take a deep breath and hold it. Exhale and hold the breath. Relax, breathe normal, open your eyes. Now we come to page 19, and we read this commentary. Diligently apply yourself to this practice as much as you can. In between sessions, practice mandala offering and recite to the best of your ability whichever sutras you prefer, such as the praises of the Buddha, White Lotus of Compassion, La Ladvivtas Tara, Jataka Tales, or the 108 names of the Tathagatas. Dedicate your sources of virtue towards unsurpassable awakening and recite prayers of aspiration. In general, whatever you are doing, whether it is moving, walking, sleeping, or sitting, you should constantly remember the Buddha. Even at night when you go to sleep, consider that the radiance of the Buddha's form illuminates the whole space in every direction, lighting it up as brightly as during the day. At all times, emulate the Buddha's actions from the moment he first generated the mind of awakening, and follow the example of the Buddhas and great bodhisattvas of the past, present, and future. Maintaining your commitment to precious bodhicitta, without ever allowing it to waver, exert yourself as much as possible in the bodhisattva's conduct in general, and in the practices of shamatha and vipassana in particular, so as to make meaningful the freedoms and advantages of this human existence. It is said in several sutras that merely hearing the name of our teacher, the Buddha, ensures that one will gradually progress along the path to great enlightenment without ever falling back. It is also said that the Dharani revealed above us is the source of all the Buddhas. It was through the force of discovering this Dharani that the king of Shakyas himself attained enlightenment, and that Avalokiteshvara became the supreme of all the bodhisattvas. Through simply hearing this Dharani, a vast accumulation of merit will easily be gained and all karmic obscurations will be purified. And when reciting it, obstacles will not occur. This has been taught in the abridged Prajna Paramita. Other teachings say that by reciting this Dharani only once, all the harmful actions you have committed through the 800,000 kalpas will be purified. They say that it possesses boundless qualities such as these, and is the sacred heart essence of Buddha Shakyamuni. The way to generate faith and exert oneself in the practices of shamatha and vipassana are explained elsewhere. The next is in the italics, the small. The intention to compose this text first arose due to the persistent encouragement of Un Oyen Tenzin Norbu, who is a holder of the treasury of threefold training, and who accompanied his request with the offering of auspicious substances. More recently, the same Un Rinpoche sent Tulku Jigme Pema Dachen with gifts of gold and other auspicious substances, saying, "Please finish it quickly." At the urging of these two great masters, I, Mipam Jamyam Gyatso, a follower of Shakyamuni, who has unshakable faith in the Supreme Teacher and is a Dharma teacher in name only during this final age, composed this at Punsuk Norbu Leng at the foot of Mount Za Dorje Penshuk. It was completed on the 8th day of the month of miracles in the Iron Rat year. May this benefit the teachings and may this benefit the teachings and beings continuously, without interruption, on a marvelous scale. And may all who see, hear, think of, or come into contact with it in any way truly receive the incomparable blessings of our teacher, Lord of Sages. This was translated by the Rigpa Translations, with reference to existing versions by Tulku Tongjup Rinpoche and the Padmakara Translation Group. Special thanks to Lotsawa House and Rigpa Translations for their translations of this precious sadhana. Some editing and alterations were done by Eric Siknopoulos. Om Hong, Om Hong, Om Hong, Om Hong. So, does anybody have comments, questions? How did this land on you?
It's beautiful meditating on the historical Buddha, on Buddha Shakyamuni.
Good. What did you think? I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, you first, please, Lance.
I was going to ask, what did you think of doing the long recitations that we did? We did 5 mile rounds. So that was 540 rounds. What did you think of that?
I was cognizant of how many times my mala went around. So yes, that sounds about right. I found I got distracted much more than I had expected or wanted to. And I think it's a rookie mistake of getting preoccupied with my worst fears. And hopefully with practice that I won't fixate on those fears as much. I'll fixate on the Buddha.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Somebody else like to comment on the recitation? So 5 mala rounds is not very much. Didn't take very long, really. It's a short mantra. But did anybody have an awareness, a sense of breaking through at any point? You know, where maybe in the beginning saying, oh, where is this going? Where is this going? And then at some point just relaxing in it and saying, oh, this is very nice. Well, that's the breakthrough that we look for. And pushing ourselves whenever we have the opportunity to break through further. You know, to do 1,000 recitations. We did 500. To do 1,000 recitations. Then to do 2,000 recitations. To set a goal for yourself, give yourself the time, and see the result. See the result. It's like going to the gym. Everybody's one time or another gone to a gym or had some barbells or dumbbells, and you did some exercises and you began to see that you're developing muscles that you admired other people for, and now you've got it yourself. Well, the same is true with doing these practices and these mantras. There is a result, and the result is peace of mind. So many answers will come by doing these practices. And you will be transforming all your negativity, all your confusion will be transformed into wisdom. Because all the wisdom is there. It's just blocked up by the monkey mind that's thinking about all these things. So by using the mantra, a mind protection, mantra means mind protection, like a surgical scalpel that is cutting through all those confusions, all those defilements, and laying open our wisdom mind. And then everything that we talk about all makes sense. All of a sudden you see the light. Yes,
How?
Matt.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go, please, Matt.
How would you recommend, just kind of practically speaking, we would integrate this into the kind of structure we've been building with our other practices, with the 4 thoughts and, you know, the other methods and the shamatha practice and everything? Yeah, what would your recommendation be?
Excellent question. And the answer is you follow it in the way that we've learned it. We start off with our opening motivational prayers. We do the 4 thoughts that turn the mind to the Dharma. We do the stages of meditation where we recite the method of loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. We have a shamatha, calm abiding meditation. If there's a vipassana that arises up out of that, we explore that. And then we enter into doing this guru yoga practice. You know, so all of those can take a relatively short amount of time. We've done it a long time because we've been examining it. but it's putting you in a one-pointed mindfulness and not to skip any of these parts, to do these parts. The shamatha and the vipassana can be kind of brought on the same path, and we can go to the Guru Yoga, and then during the Guru Yoga time when we are doing the meditation, that can be our shamatha, that can be our vipassana practice. So we see that these are all woven, interconnected, and so it doesn't have to be that they're just precise lines and we can't cross over them. We can always go backwards and weave in between them and so on like that. So to say it succinctly, we follow all those instructions, do the Guru Yoga, and then at the conclusion, then we come and we do our dedication prayers.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, and I guess just trying to figure it out for myself. And I think part of it is, for me, what feels right to do is to spend a good amount of time on like the four thoughts and these other things to really let them sink in. I would imagine over time can go through that quicker. And part of what I'm thinking is like with doing it that way, then adding this on top, it like becomes like hours of like to get through this practice in ways that are just not sustainable for me right now, other than maybe like on a weekend or something, trying to figure it out that way. But I think I hear what you're saying. So that addresses that point. Yeah.
If you can, find an hour, you could do this in an hour. And going through the whole thing, including the practice that we just did, you could do that in an hour. But if you have more time, of course, you could do it longer and so on. But at least, every now and again, as you're learning the other parts and memorizing them, do the whole thing, because that, gives you a goal. If you get fixated on just one part, like say the four thoughts, you're kind of getting caught in the woods and you're not seeing the whole thing. You're not having the benefit of the whole practice. So sometimes we need to have that inspiration, even if we don't fully understand it all. So make obtainable goals for yourself.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Hey, this is Zara. Good morning.
Good morning.
I was just listening to you. I've been listening and soaking in. I've been more of an active listener today and enjoying everything. And yes, Lance, I had a meditative moment, like a melodic moment where I went into almost like a trance as we were all chanting. You asked that question a few moments ago. That happened for me for about 3 seconds. So in listening to what you just said, my journey, because I'm going through it right now, is I was barely able to do 5 minutes. I was very overwhelmed with all of these aspects. And now I have about 7 to 10 hours a week in my spiritual time bandwidth that I allot and protect very selfishly now, in conjunction with my other human responsibilities like work, family, and other self-care. But that did not happen overnight. And so I'm at year 2.5 right now. And I started with barely 5 minutes. If that's helpful for you to sort of give you my progression, since it's happening right now. And I have moments like where Lance was just saying, do what you can, where I struggle because of other responsibilities. Like I have a work project right now that's really heavily on me, but I still will protect the space for wherever I've accumulated to. Even if I'm not fully present, I'll still hold the space for that habit, so I don't give that up for something else and develop maybe not as useful of a habit, where it becomes now I'm doing something else instead of protecting that spiritual bandwidth. I don't know if that makes sense, where I just will hold the space, even if it's not as productive as I'd like. I still sit there with it, even if I'm just looking at a candle burning or incense burning, if that's where my head is. But I hope that's helpful. I just wanted to share with you. I think those are really good questions, and that's my recent experience.
Yeah, thanks. And I think it's an important point of, like you're saying too, of just like the repetition, like doing something or doing it every day. Yeah, I think that's a really important thing. And for me, I mean, I can find, not always, but typically we'll find the time, and I'm trying to get more disciplined with it, but to be doing some kind of practice. But I guess for me, I'm I'm trying to like have some kind of like really soak in some of these other teachings, but that might not be the exact best approach. I'm still trying to feel out, like for me it's like the four thoughts is like the thing I've really been trying to focus on, to like yeah, like really let it soak in, because it's such like an important thing for me, I've realized. And then so I was just thinking, like if I do that, like building all of these practices on top of this, it just becomes like, you know, it would take so long to get through for me. But I take what you're saying, like what Lance is saying too, of like, yeah, how quickly going through these things, and some of it sounds like can be combined to like the shamatha with the recitation of the mantra, and some of the other stuff as well can become like a more holistic kind of synergistic kind of thing or something.
If you have the book Learning Buddhism, there is a chapter in there about the four thoughts. And if you don't have it and you want to read it, it's not a big chapter, you know, it'll take you a half hour to read it, I guess. I can send you the PDF. You know, I've got the PDF of the entire book. If anybody wants that, I can put it in our WhatsApp and everybody can download it. I suggest you get it printed. You know, I'm not one to read the video screens and iPhones and so on like that. I'd rather print it and make notes as I go along on the printed paper. And that's, you know, a technique that I use. So I can do that for you. All right. Well, I hope this is helpful. I think it's good practice. This is, you know, stages of the meditation. This is what we're doing, bit by bit, inch by inch, and so on. So next week we will. Well, next week we're not going to have a meeting. I got family coming in, so we won't meet next week. It'll be the following week. So whatever date that is. But we will continue with the Bodhisattva Shenrezig. We will do that practice, and we will talk about the Bodhisattva Shenrezig. So that'll be very good. And Monday night, we will have our Monday night meeting tomorrow. We will do that, but the following Monday will be off because my family will still be here. And we won't be doing Medicine Buddha this Thursday. Any other questions or comment?
Lance, very quickly, we're all busy people, and I get that. It can be hard to find time to meditate, but I would share that don't underestimate sleep. The Dalai Lama talked about how sleep is the highest form of meditation, and I love to sleep. I really try to get 8 hours a night, and you know, there's such a thing as the Dharma of sleep and sleep yoga. This is an image of the Buddha there under the Bodhi tree that I think about when I go to bed every night. And imagine that I'm wandering in that forest and come upon him. And Lance, I think you were there, weren't you, physically in the part of the world where the Bodhi tree is? So
yes, I've been to India.
Yeah, and so that's
at the exact time.
That's a visualization that helps me when I go to sleep anyways, to be
that's very good. Yes. Yep. And that energy is everywhere. You know, it's not just in India, it's everywhere. It's part of the human energy. That's great. Yes. The sleep is very important. And that's one of the experience. We talked about that last week in the Bardos, you know, the Bardo of dreams. Absolutely. Okay, well then we will do our dedication prayers. So if we go to our 101 book, and the dedication prayer will start on page 18, the Lineage dedication prayer. Dorje Chang, Talopa, Naropa, Marpa, Milarepa, Dharma Lord Gampopa, Pagmadrupa, Lord Drikumpa. Please bestow upon us the most auspicious blessing of all the Kagyu Lamas. By this virtue may I achieve the all-knowing state, and may all who travel on the waves of birth, old age, sickness, and death cross the ocean of samsara by defeating all enemies, confusion, the cause of suffering. bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind. Where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. I pray that the Lama may have good health. I pray that the Lama may have long life. I pray that your Dharma activities spread far and wide. I pray that I may not be separated from you. As Manjushri, the warrior, realized the ultimate state, and as did Samantabhadra, I will follow in their path and fully dedicate all merit for all sentient beings. By the blessing of the Buddha who attained the three kayas, by the blessing of the truth of the unchanging Dharma as such, and by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, by the blessing of the indivisible Sangha order, may the merit I share bear fruit. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate road of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Sravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. See, I'm combining prayers. Sorry, back to the Dekorma prayer. By the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all beings in samsara and nirvana, and by the innate road of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious enlightenment. May the teachings of the great Trikumpa Ratna Shri, who is omniscient, Lord of the Dharma, Master of interdependence, continue and increase through study, practice, contemplation, and meditation until the end of samsara. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious kind root and lineage lamas, divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, bodhisattvas, yogins, yoginis, and dakinis, dwelling in the 10 directions, please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the three times, by myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate road of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Sravaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors who harm, misleading Maras and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I, in any case, gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. Om, Ah, Hum. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you all very much. Have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone. See you all.
Thank you, Lance.
Thank you. Thank you.
One.
See you all in 2 weeks.